Alright everybody, we have a training game on the board. So the opponent here is WheresTheBackup. Please forgive the get-up. At a funeral today, buried my uncle, 80 years old. And the instructions were to come wearing colours. Okay, so we have the centre game. Alright, and now this is not a bad way to open at all. Now the Danish gambit would continue with pawn to c3. Okay, now what to do? So accepting the gambit is fruity. Okay, the move that I play is queen e7, threatening this undefended pawn. Then if they take, I'll play d5. Almost whatever happens, you play d5 and threaten the pawn a second time. The pawn is also pinned, so cannot capture. Oops. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to play pawn to d5. Now the correct move here surely is to take in the centre. Then white establishes two pawns in the centre. Now this pawn of course is undefended, but if takes, I have queen takes, or I could just develop a knight. Okay, so opponent is saying I'm a Danish and a modern Scandinavian player. Good. Well, that's all stuff that I've recommended in the past. Alright, so we are currently equal. Now if I take, white will take here. If I take and pawn takes, then white is going to end up with an isolated queen's pawn. That means that there's no c pawn, there's no e pawn that can ever defend this pawn, unless I offer something and one of his pawns gets to capture onto one of those files. Now, I don't know what the correct thing to do here is, so we should be thinking, well, principled. So, I mean, this isn't about black's play, this is about white's play. So, if I take, I'm not worried about the knight coming out. And what's more, I'm looking down at the g2 pawn, which is currently defended only by this bishop here. So that's going to discourage white from moving the bishop, obviously, because then the rook is also in danger. Now, so we have tension between the queens. Pawn structure is symmetrical, although white has an advanced c pawn, which may hamper this knight slightly. Now if I take, white's going to get an IQP, but I think a more principled approach may be to develop my knight to c6. Then if white takes and I recapture, I've got a knight that's had two moves into the board. Okay, so here white should not take. A better move here for white would be something like bishop here to e3, so that if I take, they then get a piece out in the board, or knight f3. Knight f3, if I take, they get a knight in the centre of the board, and that's a good thing to do. So white should not trade queens here. So I would be thinking about, obviously, knight c6, putting pressure, try and prompt my opponent to do that. Okay, this is interesting. Now, I have a choice. I could put my... this is not a bad move, it's a developing move. It does, however, hang this pawn. Okay, so there's no reason to do that. A better move here, Martin, would be knight f3, defending the bishop and also blocking my queen sides of that pawn. So I'm not going to capture here. If I did, actually, there's bishop to here, but then I can eliminate that with my knight, and that, yeah, that would actually blunder the bishop. Right, so another option is, for example, queen e4 check. So I'm looking at both the queen and the king, and let's say, what can white do? I mean, can block with the knight, could also block with the bishop. So why would I want to give my opponent the free opportunity to develop a bishop? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to trade queens. Okay, so let's reassess. White has an isolated queen's pawn. Now the key, as I understand, with IQP positions is about controlling the square in front of the pawn. And right now I'm doing that to some degree with my knight. I want to castle pretty quickly. So I'm looking at how can I castle? Well, here, knight can block, bishop can block. If bishop blocks, again, I don't really want to try. I don't really want to give my opponent the opportunity to get a piece off the mark quickly. Yeah. So other thoughts include knight c6. Then we've got to think, well, what are we going to do if they advance the pawn? Well, that's not a bad thing. It just means this pawn is even deeper into no man's land. So I'm going to play that move. And if this pawn does move, it gives up control of this square. So I can actually plonk my knight on there, maybe develop my bishop here. Good move, another good move. So developing a piece and defending the pawn now with that piece. My first thought is bishop g4, and I'll explain the logic. White might castle, I eliminate the knight, mess up his pawns, giving him 3 pawn islands, and then the knight is also no longer defending that pawn. So he's got multiple problems. What's more, with this move, now I need to consider this. With this move, I'm also preparing to long castle. However, I should bear in mind that my own f7 pawn is currently undefended. So I could do a move like this, but that would be kind of crazy, wouldn't it? I'm walking into a pawn fork. Now I can trade my way out of it. Take, take, take. Maybe it's the right thing to do. Pawn fork. Knight takes pawn. I think we're okay there. And I'm defending this pawn. So what I've done is, I've seen kind of some things I'd like to do. And still, if white does short castle, I still have this as an option. Maybe. But right now, I'm threatening the undefended bishop. Now if bishop takes, it's going to be pawn take. So then we're both going to end up with isolated pawns. But I can then long castle, get my rook onto d8 and attack this guy. Okay. Yeah, I didn't really think that through very well. So if long castles, my rook's going to be on d8. And this is solid play from white. You've got a very good defensive structure on this side of the board. This side of the board is still undeveloped. And of course, there's the isolated pawn issue. We both have a dark squared bishop. Nobody has a light square. Let's go opposite side castling just for giggles. And now I have 2 attackers on here. So I've got to get into the habit, obviously. There you go. Brilliant. Okay. So adding a second defender. 2 attackers. And now 2 defenders. Happy days. So my first instinct now is to develop my bishop and connect my rooks, thereby completing development. Question is, where is the correct place for my bishop? This looks kind of sensible. Might support an e5 push. Another thing that I just notice is, see this corner? What do you see about this corner? Right? He's not developed the knight yet, so knight here, and the rook is trapped. So let's go for that. Let's see if white picks up on that. So what white should do now is simply develop the knight. Because honestly, if I come in here, let's say he develops the knight, I come after the rook anyway, he moves the rook and hits my knight, I take his bishop, he takes here, then he's now got a buddy for his isolated pawn. There we go, good move. Good move. So I can do this, but I don't know if I want to take that bishop. Now it's a good board for bishops. So what would Hunty play on a bad day? It is quite a bad day, to be fair. I could come in here, attacking this pawn, but then he just moves the pawn. So you've got to say to yourself, well, look, has my opponent got to get out of that attack? There's no point doing an attack that's not very good. But let's do this anyway. Let's do it. So what he should do now is this. That will definitely put the question to the knight. Remember, this is defended by the knight. This is currently not defended. Okay, So I have to do something. I can't go there. That's an option. I can't go there, and I can go here. What does this do? Not a lot. Let's take the bishop off. So on the negative side, my opponent now has 3 pairs of pawns, and that's a big difference because he's now got these 2 pawns in the center, and they can then move up the board and support each other. My e-pawn, on the other hand, has no friends at all. He's Eddie No Mates, that's what he is. The fact that this pawn has moved off f2 as well might mean that there are opportunities on the dark diagonal for my dark squared bishop later in the game. Okay, here I've got to be careful about pawn fork stuff, but here if I push, I want to centralize my other rook as well. I want to get this guy either to f8 or e8. So let's attack the knight. Nothing wrong here with a3. Good move. Good move. So my opponent's rated 952. So clearly the threat here is to take the pawn. Probably actually with the knight is the more threatening one, rather than going for the immediate check. Immediate check, I move out the way. He's also attacking this pawn, by the way. However, look, if I push here, his knight's got to. If his knight takes here, and I come back, the knight is then trapped. You see? Knight takes on a7, king b8, where does the knight go? It really has to desperado and capture that pawn, which would be 3 pawns for a knight. Check here doesn't work, he can't go there. Here I'd be very tempted to capture. Okay, he's retreated. Now 3 pawns for a knight when it's an open board, and when the 3 pawns in question are the only 3 pawns surrounding my king, I would certainly have been tempted to take that option. Now I'm going to get my king onto b8. And the reason is I'd like to put my knight there, see if he wants to take, and then I get to repair my pawns, which is good. Okay, now the question is where to put my bishop. I could come back here. I could trade it for the knight. Then he's got rook takes. Or I can come back here. Or it's this. I'm going to come back this way. Yeah, he says, I've not started the best at the beginning. Yeah. Yeah, the Danish is a perfectly good opening. Perfectly good. Nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so he's pushed b4. This is not a bad thing. So he's pushing pawns up towards where my king is. So I have 2 options. I can go there or I can go there. I'm going to go here for no other reason than it's in line with white's king. So if either of these pawns pushes, it automatically pins the other one. Okay, good. Good, I like this. He's spotted a tactic, he's coming in. Not worried about this, so rook h f8, I think, is the way to go. Even bishop here would still be an idea. Then if I take and pawn takes, doubled isolated pawns, then again. It's really a story of pawn structures, this. These knights, noticed with them both on their natural squares, they are both facing off on the same central squares. But I'm liking the fact that my bishop's in line with that king. Alright, so he's coming after the bishop. I'm just going to drop back here and threaten to double and isolate his pawns. So what he should do now is move the knight. He's got several good squares. This doesn't work, doesn't work, doesn't work. Doesn't work because knight takes. And he's got the... Ooh, right, okay. Instructive moment. I'm going to take the knight out. Take the knight off. Okay, and here is a hanging pawn. Okay, so what happened here? Right, so what you have to do is you have to say, let's. I'll flip the board. Okay, so black just plays this, and what you have to do then is calculate a few, not long, kind of branches, but okay. Well, what if he takes my knight? Well, it's defended, but then yeah, how are you going to defend these pawns? Now, what he's done here is he's put a pawn on g5. For one thing, I mean, I'm getting the feeling that my opponent likes a bit of aggression as well, which is no bad thing, but you've got to temper it. So the problem here is that he's put his pawn on a square where it's attacked and it's defended, but the defender has just disappeared. Okay, and now black gets to capture the pawn. This is the problem. And what's more, both of these isolated pawns are now en prise. In fact, hanging, which means they're en prise and undefended. And I don't think there's any way, if white had two moves, he could put his knight here and defend both. But that's it. So not a fantastic. So we might squeeze 2 games in. And that's a real collapse. And notice we've also got tension as well between these rooks. So this move was really dubious. Yes, it's defended, but is the defender safe? Not really. So what would I have played in this position? Just go back before the pawn push. In this position, yeah, I think just move the knight. You've actually got an advantage over black here. You've got all your pawns at least have a buddy. This guy doesn't have a buddy. So what I would be thinking now is see if we can apply pressure to this pawn. Well, where's it going to go? Well, the good thing about pawns is they're very predictable. They only go in one direction, right? So you want to just think about dropping back. This pawn moves forwards, snatch it off. Okay, so we have now this. I can play from white's point of view. I think that's probably fine. So there's a free pawn here. And now look at white's pawns. And now look at white's king. Very dubious. Okay, I like this move. It's an outpost. And clearly, he's threatening to take this pawn with a rook fork. So we are not going to have this. We're not going to put up with this stuff. No, no, no. So, can my knight defend that? No. Can my rooks defend it? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4 ways. So I'm going to play one of those moves. King can't defend. Is there a counterattack is the next thing you might ask. Well, there is. Look at this. Okay, so I can give up the pawn there. So if I go there with check, he has to he has to move the king on his next turn, and it can't be to one of these 2 squares. So it's almost certainly going to be like g2. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this one hanging and see if my opponent sees it, right? I'm going to play... Let's play this rook over. Oh no, that would be a very bad idea. Can you see what's wrong with that move? The move then is here with a fork on king and rook. So it can't be this guy, he's out. So it's going to be this or it's going to be this. And I'm going to keep it on the background. I'm going to keep my rooks connected. Don't see any reason to split them up. And here is also a forkable square, a knight fork square from there. So if this rook should ever move, for example, he trades off, he's threatening to bang in there with these. So white is on a sticky wicket, clearly at this point. He's 2 pawns down, right? And these are those. These are the pawns. Maybe something, he can't move there. I would think about making sure just everything's defended as much as possible. So something like a rook here defends this backwards pawn and defends this one. This rook defends this one. Yeah, he says he's played the Danish about 80 times but only faced d5 once. Yeah. Yeah, it is the best move though. It isn't actually the best move. Okay, so I'm winning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trade down. I'm going to simplify. I'm just checking. Now the first thing because there's a marauding knight in the area, right? First, all I have to do is king, dark square, rook, light square. Forget about it. It's fine. All right. There's no option for a knight fork. Wherever a knight is, yes, it could look at 8 different squares, but they're all squares of the same colour. They're all squares of the opposite colour that the knight is on. Okay, so he's captured there. I think it's time now for black to bring the king up. We start to press with the king. The king, when the dangers diminish on the board, the king's power increases. Okay, he has this, but knight covers. Okay, so what's his idea? He's not going there. He's not going there because of the pawn, or there, or there. So I'm not worried. I'm going to kick this knight away, I think. Yep. And before I drop the pawn, I'm just saying, okay, where can he go? Is there a threat? Well, there's a check. Right, so he's come back. Okay. And I have a 3-on-2 on this side, and I have my king there, right? I have a 3-on-2 on this side, kinda. So I think a sensible move, just lift the rook. Like we say, just make sure stuff's defended. And for every pawn island that you've got, so I've got 3 pawn islands, right? So I've got 3 backwards pawns at least, all of which need to be defended, right, by a piece. So a good idea is to move like pieces into a structure. Okay. He's not threatening there, he can't go there. He's threatening this pawn, push the pawn. He can bring his rook in, doesn't work. Yeah. I just said d5 is a good move. You know, I was a Danish player and I hated playing against the Danish. Okay, so he's resigned. So we're going to do we'll do a rematch. Do a rematch the other way around. And why don't I play the Danish against him? Let's see what happens if he goes e5. Let's see what happens. Yes, of course he was a good sport. Okay, yeah, he just told me he's a Scandi modern player. All right. So the best move for white is to take the pawn. After which point he's told me he's going to play knight to f6. The move that I normally play is pawn to d4. And let's go down his line. Let's go down the Scandi. Okay. Now, if he places knight out here again, yeah. So again, actually, the best move really for white is pawn to d4. Interestingly, so yeah, he says he knows I was a Danish player. He started watching me and had the same idea. Hit them with unusual openings. Okay, so pawn to d4 here. With this Scandi, it's like a gambit. I mean, it's not really a gambit. Anyway, so he says you play what I do, which means I have no tricks. So yeah, well, this isn't about tricks, but we shall see. Okay, so where are we? We've each lost a pawn. I have no e pawn. He has no d pawn. I've got a pawn in the board. He's got a knight in the centre. Okay, now c4. c4 looks interesting. Before I do this, I'm just going to check that the queen can't come here, and she can't because the c pawn. So let's do this. It comes with tempo, right? I'm going to flip the board again. We're going to play again from black's point of view because that's what's more important here. So what I'm doing here is I'm grabbing space in the center. So this is like we've now transposed into like a d4 opening from white, where d4 and c4 often come together. Or even if somebody plays the English, with c4 on move 1. Okay. So the knight's retreated. So that's now 1, 2, 3 moves for the knight. Yeah. So move 1, move 2, move 3 for the knight. Okay. So what's the situation? Queen's looking at that, is defended. This is currently defended by the bishop. But I'm just stick my knight out on here. I just know that this is a typical position. Apparently this is the Tumulty gambit. After this move. This is the Marshall variation. This is the Tumulty gambit. So how am I playing a gambit? What am I offering? I don't know. Okay, so we have pawn to e5. You could maybe have got away, sorry, you've got pawn e6. You could maybe have got away with that, pawn e5. Because then if I take, you trade queens, but then knight takes. Yeah, always got to check. If the queen's knight's come out, the queen's knight can capture if you trade queens. So not much going there. So let's, whose go is it? It's white's go. I think we just develop a knight. Yeah, that's the move that I just tried to play, thinking I was black. Okay, pin the knight. Generally a good thing. And then don't be hasty to take the knight. Wait for your opponent to burn a move and push a3. If you intend to take the knight anyway, then you can take it. And then, again, you give them the triple pawn islands. Unless your opponent has played a move like this. Which I don't know if I want to do. So I'm just going to develop. Let's develop Zabish. Yeah. Looking down at h7 at least. Could even drop back. Okay, so this is announcing to me that it's going to fianchetto this bishop. No worries. Now I could try and jump the gun here, but then notice if he takes, what about this knight? This knight is pinned. We have to remember this. Okay, I'm going to break the pin. Not going to mess around too much. Okay, so what would I do here? Yeah, bishop b7. Follow through with your plan. Then the knight's going to come here or here, probably short castle. You may also long castle. But I mean, one thing I don't like here is this amount of control that white has over these central squares, right? Look at all these squares in black side of the board. Oh. All right. Well, I'll bite. Oh no, my bishop. You are absolutely right. The bishop was undefended. That was not very clever. Okay, so what does white do here? Can't castle. I'd love to tempt the king onto a dark square where this bishop could jump out of nowhere and give check and win the queen. That's not about to happen. This pawn is undefended also. All's in other news, this knight is now attacked twice, so I can't push this pawn. Can't push b3, because then takes, simply wins a piece. Okay, so shall we go on the offensive? Let's go here. Queen can't go there, can't go there, can't go there. What I want to do is castle my king. I've blundered a piece. So, well spotted there. So do I feel like I'm playing a 9-5-2 in this game? Not at all. But that was just good tactical insight. I'm also defending this pawn. Could even do this. But this will be a good game now. I'm excited. Oh, hang on. His bishop's hanging. I told you I wasn't blooming firing on all cylinders today. But this happened the last time I did a 3-day fast. Having said that, to be fair, okay, but I'm also attacking the bishop now. But now the queen is counterattacking my knight. And if the queen takes my knight, it comes a check. So how can we defend the knight? This defends the knight. Let's play it through. Hang on. The white pawn is not attacking the... Oh dear. Right, forget that. The white pawn is pointing this way. I'm playing upside down. Okay. So I defend the knight. So now it's up to black. So you're up a piece for a pawn. What do you do? Also, your opponent's pawns here are doubled. So I'm going to want to capture here at the earliest opportunity, but I'm not going to capture if it hangs my knight. I don't believe that it would be a great idea for black to trade the bishop for the knight, just because he's giving up the bishop pair. Yes, he's up a little bit of material, but not all the material. I would have just taken here, I think. Okay, so he's angled his bishop down there. Now I can just castle. If I take, bishop takes is looking at my rook. No, I'm not having that. He might do this. No, he can't go there. Can't go on any of these squares, that queen. Or there. So I'm just checking that the queen can't dive in with a mating threat. This is okay. Alrighty. Okay. So the key thing is here, 2 attackers, 1 defender. Now. So we're going to trade off here. And he has to take back with the knight. If he doesn't take back with the knight, he loses castling rights. Okay, there we go. Now, is that a move? I don't know. Is that a move? Probably. I don't have this because bishop can just take. This bishop is undefended. If I could move my knight with a threat, a big threat, I might be able to win the bishop. But right now, let's just eliminate that redundant pawn here. That's a decent move, yeah. So we've both got kind of awkward pawns here. Difference is opponent has an extra light squared bishop. Now, how can we tempt the queen onto a square? Now, what are the squares? Well, if my knight moves to one of these, then the target squares are going to be these guys. All of these dark squares. So how can I get a queen, or try and get his queen onto one of these dark squares without moving my bishop? Because that's got a job to do. Not easy, really. Here, pawn can't take. Okay. Here, queen can't take. Pawn can't take because it's pinned, but bishop can. Knight here, bishop takes knight, I take bishop. Knight here, bishop takes me, I take his bishop off. His bishop is also under attack. Maybe what I should be doing here is centralizing a rook. Just feels like the right thing to do. Okay, and we have castles. But there's still this issue of this undefended piece. Now, Knight here, and I'm actually threatening a royal fork, but not until that bishop disappears. So let's kick the bishop. Now this is not really a threat because you can simply take now. This pawn's not pinned anymore, so actually this is not really the move. It'd be lovely to get my knight in there, but it ain't going to happen. Now if bishop takes knight, I've got bishop takes, and that's the discovery on this guy. Also, notice undefended pieces. And that was my blunder. I undefended my own piece. Very common. If you take here, I'll happily recapture. Okay, great. So now you notice that the knight is undefended. The knight has a nice little post there. That's not a bad place for the knight to go. Still got a horrible long-range sniper bishop there. Other ideas. Notice I also have a bishop looking down at the pawn in front of the king, the g-pawn. My bishop defends this. Queen is the only defender of that right now. Okay, so it's moved his knight. Thinking about how can I get my queen looking at that. This square is a possibility. This is also a possibility, pinning the knight on the rook, but it then removes the checkmate threat. I do have more active rooks. I think my bishop needs to stay there. It can play a very meaningful role in the game from that position. This pawn is undefended. I could drop my rook in. Then if he pushes, I can simply take. Still defended by the queen. Yeah, let's drop the rook in. Got 9 minutes, plenty of time. Okay, if I was black, I would play this move with a fork on the bishop and the rook. Yeah, white is not very smart and has walked into a potential knight fork. I expect my opponent to find that because I think he's got a good eye for the old tactics. Okay, he's gone conservative, and has he hung a pawn in the process? Yeah, now the bishop is defended by the knight, but the knight itself is not defended. So let's grab the pawn. Let's try and even things up a little bit. Now I'm actually 2 pawns up. So he's got a... Oops. Brilliant. Fantastic. Brilliant. Okay, well, we're having a decider. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. Are you going Danish again? You probably are. Okay. Let's do it. Really? Okay, so he's not happy with the Danish. He's going 3 knights. Ha. Okay, we'll go 4 knights Italian and see if we get the old trick. So if the bishop comes out here, you can take this pawn. Okay, so the 4 knights Spanish variation. Okay, we're in uncharted territory here. Okay, so I'm going to develop my bishop, looking down here. Sensitive place, another sensitive place, because if he castles, that's where the king's going to be. Look at me, not looking over my shoulder. Oy. Well, that would have been worth about 14 points if you'd won that game in real life. And he won it. You know, I didn't gift that game. That's just how I'm playing right now. Best of 3. Okay, so I'm not worried about this. Ooh, that's an early queen move. And my first thing is, can I punish it? That targets queen d. So let's prepare. So the only reason I can't play that is because of this knight. So I'm going to play this. Try and pin the knight on the queen. Oh, but then because of moving that pawn now, this knight here is pinned. So I probably have to castle first and then do that. Now whatever he does with this king is inconsequential, doesn't matter. Right, oh, hello there. Good, no, I like this. If I take, he takes there, and then he's attacking the pin piece with a pawn, which we don't want. So I'm not going to take it. I could kick. Should we kick? Now let's castle. So break the pin. Then this is actually still on. This is all good. If he takes here, queen takes, and this is, nothing changes. Can still do that pin. This bishop doesn't need to be defended on this square because there's nothing attacking it. And then I have this move, which will actually force the queen back to d1. But that would lose the bishop. That's the problem. See? It's all about laying the groundwork for an idea. Sometimes you find a one-move idea. Sometimes your opponent is a muppet and hangs a piece. So if I play this, he's going to have to playing this game the right way up, by the way, aren't we? Because I'm serious, I want to beat him now. Okay, that actually changes nothing. So out comes the bishop. The c3 would work. That would stop my knight from going to that square. Okay, and now look, that's the problem. I'm attacking the queen. That is your first concern. Second concern is undefended bishop. Now, did I expect somebody rated 952 or 966, which is what it should be, 964. Okay, so that there you see the bishop actually hangs. So, question, what are we going to do? Okay, I'm not going to take this bishop, but I'm going to lay a trap. Okay, he cannot recapture here. You just recaptured, straight off. Got to think, why did my opponent play that move? Okay. Sometimes recapturing is not the right thing to do. Sometimes giving up the material is the right thing to do. You need to get into the mindset of saying, what is the right thing to do? Even if I don't want to do it, even if it's ugly, you know, what is the right thing to do? Okay, so you're in check. Right, I'm going to forget to capture the queen. Also notice this. Here's a new threat. Right? So the first thing I'll look at, if I fork these, can this knight move with check? Well, no. Yes, he can. Sorry. So if a knight is in a 3 diagonal, it's a long way up. If a knight is in a 4 diagonal, then obviously it can. So if I do this, he can get out of it with check. Okay, queen takes, bishop escapes. So responding to threats is huge. But right now you've got a more pressing problem, which is your bishop is hanging. So what do? You stick it here, I think. Oh, okay. Well, I recapture. And you still have the problem there, right? Queen's looking at this, it is defended. If my knight moves, My bishop is also looking at that square. This is hanging. Have you seen it? I mean, in general, again, put the bishop there, it's in line with the king. But then back here into there is nothing wrong with that either. Okay, so right now I'm a pawn up. Quite happy with my progress. Black's got a decent knight. I like this knight. Oh, that's me. Yeah, I've got a good knight. Yeah, nice funeral today. As funerals go. So, for white now, I think I'd be thinking about fianchetto the bishop, get the king castled. This is just too vulnerable right now. There's a lot of space around here. Look, queen here. And what have you got? You've got to actually then have to move back to e1. Because you can't block with the queen because the knight is guarding that square. So, but again, problem number one, bishop's on priest, bishop's hanging. So, yeah, one of these two. Okay, queen here, check. Queen cannot block, so king here. Okay, I'm going to send him a little reminder. There you go. Move your stupid bishop. Queen here, check, win a pawn. That's something. Now, when your king is castled like this away, then sometimes actually you don't want to be in too much of a hurry. If your opponent's got weak pawns or they're disconnected, like this h pawn. Okay, well, I'm not having that. Look, your bishop was attacked twice. Sort it out. So he's counterattacked my knight, which I get. He's made himself a little hole for the bishop, I suppose. Again, though, you've pushed a pawn on the only side of the board where you may castle your king. Alright, your bishop's still hanging. My knight isn't. My knight's defended. Let's see if you notice now. Come on, move it. It's going to come back. I want this one to go down to an ending. Let's do some endgame practice. Did I actually beat you in the second game? Or did you let me? You actually beat me. I didn't see the mate. Oh, there you go, look. Right, now get ready for a good old-fashioned pawn storm. You haven't castled your king. I'm going to make you pay. No more Mr. Nice Guy. A bad move here for white would be to move this pawn forward, because that would give my knight a brilliant outpost in my opponent's half of the board, looking at some very good squares. So yeah, no, you beat me fair and square, mate. You beat me fair and square. I hung a piece, right? But you know what? Sometimes you play people rated 500 points higher than you, and they lose their minds. He says, when losing, I try headology. So wait until opponent distracted on another part of the board. Well, nothing wrong with a bit of headology at all. However, don't play hope chess. Don't rely on the psych ideas alone. You know, I mean, there definitely are things that come into the game, such as I'm going to look as though I'm playing in one action area, but secretly I'm setting something up elsewhere. That definitely comes into it. But don't let that get in the way of playing the right moves. That's what I'm saying. You have an undeveloped piece here. You're uncastled, right? This is a problem. Okay, I'm going to try and prompt this move. If I prompt this move, I'm a happy bunny. Okay, he's taken there. Nay bother. Okay, and now I have this lovely square. Well, I don't have it yet. That's not a good move. Can you see why? It's just if this then that, right? If opponent takes, can you recapture? Right, don't auto recapture. No one should ever auto recapture. I have done several stupid things by pre-moving or just not even checking what my opponent did. I've lost hundreds of games, literally hundreds of games, okay? That's good, okay? So one way out of a fork, move one of the pieces to defend the other piece. Sorted. Check. Right, can't go there, can't go there. That means the king has to move. But the queen can't go back. So queen blocking is not an option. King has to move. It's definitely a thought. I don't like the fact that he's got a bishop now lined up. Did the whole board just change? It looks like it all got a bit... Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's an optical illusion. Okay. I'm going to take out your bishop. I know it was a great knight. I loved that knight. That was like my favourite knight. But I was just uncomfortable. You put it on a good square, right? Not instantly. Has to be said, not instantly. Yeah, you needed a little bit of prompting. Like I had to attack it with about 3 pieces at the same time before you moved the bloody thing. But you got there. Okay, so attack the rook. You moved the rook. You spotted it. It's good. Hey, excuse me. Been a long day. Emotional days, you know. All right, c5. And now I've got a bishop spearheading my pawn mass. And also controlling rather a few interesting squares. Now, let's move the rook over here. Now, this pawn's now pinned itself. So what I'm threatening to do is come in here and skewer the queen. The queen is going to have to move to the only square where she can actually recapture here. And again, you know, we're paying the price for not castling, not getting the king safe. Look at this king. Look at him. Yeah. So I suspect my opponent may be another Terry Pratchett fan, using the term headology. Main components, mistresses, weatherwax and og. Big part of witchcraft is just headology. Getting in the client's head or the enemy's head. Okay, that's a good move. That is a good move. Let's throw in a check for giggles. And notice this diamond shape now. Pretty indestructible now. You can attack it, but if bishop takes or pawn takes, I still have a completely sound position. Actually, no. If bishop takes, I defend that, that defends that. Okay. If pawn takes, they both defend the bishop and the bishop defends both pawns. Even a bishop and a pawn together is a very solid structure, particularly in the endgame. Notice this pawn is pinned by the queen. How are we doing for materials? We're only 1 pawn up, actually, although this fella's been dangling for a while. Okay, now he's finally connected his rooks. So move 28, white has completed development. Okay, I'm going to snatch me a free pawn. I'm expecting some move like this. Okay, well that means that pawn's not currently defended. So I'm going to come back here. Might stick my queen in here. That gives me, excuse me. Actually, I already have 2 attackers on f2. I would put a rook on g-file with the idea of playing a bishop to here. That would then force me to push g6. And that would then leave this pawn weaker, leave just generally weaker. This game is not lost. But white is not in a jolly position. Not happy place, eh? Okay. Think I can force some tradage here. So rook a2 check. Rook can't block. Okay. Rook a2 check. King could go here. Maybe I want to double up rooks. I don't know. What's he doing with this? Let's do this. See what he does. I can then still reconnect my rooks on the A file. Rooks on 7th. Very, very powerful thing in general. Okay, that was poor, right? There were 2 attackers, only 1 defender. Now there is only 1 legal move. And I cannot play rook to A8. Why not? Because queen takes rook is checkmate. I get back ranked. Punked. Got to be careful now about this rook. Okay, and how do we finish? That would be mate. Mate. Well. So what have we seen? What patterns are we looking at? Let's switch the board from white's perspective. Just have a quick review on this. 3 knights, 4 knights, perfectly good. Now from here, you can go Italian, you can go Spanish, you can go Scotch. 4 knights Scotch. Yeah, thanks for the game. Thanks, you did great. 4 knights Scotch, definitely worth looking into. Naroditsky's played a few in his recent speed runs, or might be a couple of speed runs. Very, very trappy and tricky opening. So opponent here plays the Spanish variation. I bring my bishop out, and queen out. The machine didn't like queen out, and I didn't like queen out. Just on principle, what's she doing there? Why is she there? Right? You remember what you didn't do in this game? King castled, right? You never castled the king, all right? And you paid the price in the end of it. Castle for a reason. You get your king safe and you activate your other rook. So let's keep an eye on these 2 guys. Let's see what happens, right? Queen here. Bam, bam. Generally bad idea. Push the pawn, develop the bishop. Oop, not to there. Develop the bishop, pinning the knight, right? Then you've got options. Get the king safe. Okay? Attacking's great, but we didn't like that very much. It says I should have played knight to d4. Well, yeah. I don't know if I spotted it then. Okay, but anyway, so here, castles. See? Look who's got the king safe. Me. You haven't. And a normal pin. And now knight takes f6 is a good move. You didn't, you kicked. And that walks into this. That's the problem. Right? So it's things like, okay, so things I would say to myself, this knight is pinned, right? Opponent castles. This knight is no longer pinned. The knight is no longer pinned. The knight is no longer announcement. You know what I mean? It's like, do it on your own little mental tannoy, or stick virtual post-it notes to your face. The knight is no longer pinned. And this just, you know, is creating a nice hole for it. Anyway, knight comes in now. Okay, now it's brown trousers time. Okay, so best move here. Wow. Look how bad that position is. When the computer says you should take the bishop and give up your queen, you know you're at poop alley. Okay, so it tries to save. I take here. And yeah. Okay. Wow. Didn't really realize it was that bad. But here, yeah, you see the automatic recapture. Okay, if I do this, what can my opponent do? So one thing to think about. If I do this, okay, look at the board, okay? Now, you'll get more attuned to seeing two pieces in this, permutation or many others, like that and that, are in a knight forkable position, right? It's just pattern recognition. Okay, now I'll let you off the queen. That's a decent trade. Knight c3, it's saying retreat this knight to defend the bishop. Okay, because he did leave it hanging. Okay, so now the rook comes across. The bishop is hanging. This bishop here. Remember, knights, bishops, queens, rooks, kings can move backwards. That's most of the pieces. In fact, it's all of them apart from pawns. Right? Pieces can move backwards. I attack it again. You counterattack my knight. My knight can just move and take the effing bishop. Okay, now you come back. No, I come back with a new threat on the queen. I hit your bishop again. And now you move the bugger. Okay, but look. See this king that never castled? This rook? Pawns are starting to press in now. Yeah, very, very typical thing. Say, okay, so I'm attacking you. If takes, then this is in a pin. And you check the rook is not defended, right? Why is the rook not defended? You're on move 21 of the game. Completing development means that your rooks are defending each other. Okay, you wouldn't have had that problem. So here, yeah. Now I like this bishop move. This bishop worried me. Okay, so I'll move my knight back, hit the queen. Queen moves, eliminate the troublesome bishop. Fair enough. Okay. And now I promote my bishop to a nice outpost, where again there's no pawn that can ever harass it. Okay, and then just finish this nice dark squared honeycomb. On there, you take, and I pin. There. Queen comes in with check. Grab the pawn. Okay, but this is now a horrible... Oh, hello. I hung the rook. Right, how many of you at home spotted that one? Hunty, you hung the rook. And actually, white is better if you take the rook. But that was a terrible move because it was just over-attacked. And mate followed soon after. So, what do we take away from this? Players rated 1573 can do stupid things. Absolutely. Follow the principles, right? It's great to be an attacking player. Fantastic. But don't do stupid stuff in the name of being an attacking player. Okay? You can attack sensibly. You can attack, for example, once you've completed development and got your king safe. But I feel really proud that somebody's been following my channel and is playing the modern Scandi and is playing the Danish from my inspiration. So that's really awesome. Great to see players enjoying their attacking. Just do it the right way. That's all. Just check. I mean, you saw it. Like I got into stupid pickle by being overly conscious of attacking, and I forgot to defend. Game 2, I lost it fair and square. I blundered a piece, and then I blundered mate. Right? It happens. It happens to everybody. It happens all the time. Happens a million times a day. So what I'm trying to say is, we all do it. Don't let it be you. Right? Just let your opponent make the first mistake. But I enjoyed those 3 games. Thank you. Where's the backup? Thank you very much for playing. Hope you've enjoyed them at home too. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. And by the way, also, if you want to do this, I'll put a link. You can book an hour in my calendar anytime I'm free. We'll get together on chess.com, which hopefully will be working because we had some fannying about today. But yeah, all good fun. If you think this looks like something you'd enjoy, let's do it. All right, see you later.